Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Fuck these bitch ass Mars. 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 They ain't got no life. They ain't got no life.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Dork Side of the Ring. This is episode number 4. Vince Russo is the greatest booker of all time. I'm your host, Radicalized Rob Francois, joined by my co-host with the most. How many people have fucking said that over the years? He is the host of It's Hughezy Hello, which I have been promoting everywhere because I'm a podcast whore, and I'm on about 15 podcasts a week. He's also the real star of Get My Go, as I always say. The one and only, joining me on remote location because his computer died. What's up, Hughezy?
What is up, Rob? Very, very sorry about the audio quality. What happened was Rob sent me the StreamYard link, and as soon as I went to open Twitter, it froze. And it's slowly, so I will switch to the computer audio as soon as it fixes, but in the meantime, we're stuck using the phone. Glad that you mentioned Get My Go, because the most recent episode at the time of recording was episode 53, which was a episode about a Vince Russo critic called Brew TV, which is at the minute, a lot of people are calling that episode the best Get My Go episode so far.
Yeah.
Which brings us, which I also thought would make a great topic to speak about today, because I think that Vince Russo, their man, has a habit of creating the stupidest fucking critics possible.
I agree with that. And that is by far the best edition of Get My Go yet. That guy is a fucking train wreck. He makes John Wangland look like fucking Walter Cronkite. And speaking of John Wangland, you're kind of John Wangland-esque on your phone right now, and you automatically already sound better than he ever has.
Yeah, well, in my defense, this is a last resort, not a sole example.
Well, you came up with a topic for this one, as you normally do, because, I have so many other things going on. I can't even, I can't pay attention to a shit show like this. But, we are big fans of Vince Russo. That's quite obvious. He's very near and dear to our hearts. We're both great, good friends of his. Why do you think Vince Russo is the greatest booker of all time?
Well, because one of the things that really brings it up is that at the minute, I'm a huge WWE fan. I thought that the Crown Jewel event was fucking brilliant. I loved it. SmackDown I watched last night with the Reigns Lesnar stuff. It's just great. And then you see some of the dumb fans going, "Oh, this is the greatest era ever to be a fan, the greatest era ever."
Yeah. And
it's not. And the greatest era ever was the 90s. It was, and I have to say that to me, the best era was from 97 until the beginning of SmackDown, which, when you look back at the timeline, just so happens to be Vince Russo's run.
You mean he didn't write the hand coming out of Mae Young's vagina?
Oh, that was the peak.
No, his 97-99 run was definitely the best ever. What's your favorite pay-per-view that from that era that you can remember?
It's got to be, and this is going to sound like typically arse kissing, but it's the Fully Loaded 99, which I think was Vince's final pay-per-view. And I can remember the build-up to that show. It was fucking, like, even though it was technically just a B show, storyline-wise, every match had this massive story. And it was so great because there was no SmackDown, there was only Raw. So if you missed Raw, it was gone forever.
Yeah.
And and so it made everything feel like a must-see big deal. Like a Jeff Jarrett versus Edge match with 4 days build seemed like a huge deal.
That's exactly right. And the main rivalry heading into that event was over the WWF Championship and involved the champion Stone Cold Steve Austin and former champion The Undertaker. And Vince McMahon was still part of that. Austin McMahon was obviously the hottest thing that ever happened in the history of wrestling. Austin and Taker first cross paths at Over the Edge, which unfortunately will always be known for as the Owen Hart stunt that failed. Which obviously people want to give Vince Russo a lot of bullshit for. They always say that he killed Owen Hart. What would you say to those retards?
I would say that I wish Vince Russo booked them. That's a ridiculous thing. That's like saying that it's the fault of the alarm clock people. Oh, well, if he wouldn't have woke up that day, he wouldn't have died. It's just a horrible accident. It's like people that get hit by cars. If they hadn't crossed the street that day, if they had left the house 2 minutes earlier, would they have get hit by a car?
That's true.
It's a horrible accident, but Owen Hart's wife needs to fuck off. Frankly.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I'm sick of her. I don't understand. Well, I mean, obviously I know what her problem is, but these people have gotten over 9/11 quicker.
That's a fair point. And just to kind of rub salt in the wound, she signed the deal with AEW to memorialize her husband, which that's going to go over as well as CM Punk's return. But
yeah, but the thing about that is like, okay, you're going to celebrate Owen Hart's career. That's great. But with what? They have no footage. They don't even have fucking photographs of him.
Like his
all Owen Hart's.
His three matches in Japan that I'm sure Kenny Omega has, on DVD.
Yeah, it's just there's something about that comes across so insincere, and maybe that's just because I think Tony Khan's a dickhead. But we have movement on the computer.
Well, that's cool because I have movement in my pants.
Seems like we're getting somewhere. But yeah, the Russo getting blamed for that Owen Hart thing, that's just the tip. That's like when people say, which is something I want to bring up later on, when they say that Vince Russo killed WCW. Unless Vince Russo was in charge of the finances in WCW, then it's not his fault.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the same thing you were talking about. It's like he didn't hire the rigging company that fucking, that put Owen on the wrong rig, so... Just because he came up with the idea, possibly, of him coming down from the ceiling, which Sting had done fucking a million times. It's like, so I mean, like, if that never happened, then this conversation about that wouldn't even happen. I mean, shit happens that you don't expect, but you can't blame the guy that wrote the fucking angle for it.
I mean, fucking Alec Baldwin just shot someone yesterday on a film set, and he's already been cleared of it.
Yeah.
Yet it's 2021 and Vince Russo still gets the blame for the Owen Hart stuff.
That's a good point. By the way, who brings a fucking live round into a movie set?
There's a lot of controversy when you read the stories. Apparently that whole production was chaos, and there'd been like crew walkouts and locals were being hired. So it's very, very strange.
Okay, and number two, why would he fire it in the direction of anybody? Just like the director of photography,
exactly.
Like it's not part of the scene, right? He's not going to shoot the DOP on the fucking, as part of the movie, which is, it's kind of ironic because he was the anti-gun guy anyway, and then he kills somebody, so it's that's kind of amusing to me.
Yeah, but at the same time, speaking of Alec Baldwin in wrestling, if there was ever a Vince McMahon film made, it would need to be Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he'll ever get hired again, but there's that.
My computer's working. I'm going to jump on to the main thing here.
Okay.
Fucking computers are shit.
I agree. But you look and sound just about the same, so we're good to go.
That was why do computers only ever stop working at the last minute? Why is it never an hour in advance? Why is it never the day before? It's only at the last minute. Fucking piece of shit.
What kind of computer is it?
iMac.
Yeah, well, that's why. All right.
It's so fucking annoying. Like, these are the ones that advertise everywhere. So you buy one and they go, oh, well, maybe it's your connection. It's like, it's your fucking design.
So I remember the fully loaded pay-per-view. I mean, it was a stacked card. You had Val Venus taking on Joey Abs. We know Joey Abs is a WWE Hall of Famer. Godfather defeated Meat. Sean Stasiak. Or maybe I'm not making a good case for myself. Christian and Viscera. We had Jeff Jarrett defeating Edge. The Acolytes took on the Hardy Boys, D'Lo Brown and Midian, Big Boss Man Al Snow, Big Show and Kane, Shamrock and Steve Blackman, New Age Outlaws, and against Billy Gunn and China. And Triple H, took on The Rock, for fuck's sake. That's a main event anywhere in the world. And then you got Stone Cold Steve Austin against The Undertaker. So,
yeah, and one of the things about this show is the main event of Austin versus Taker. The strange thing is that as great as Austin versus Undertaker were separately, for some reason they had shit match after shit match. Like, it didn't make sense.
True.
So when they got the fully loaded 99, they had the storyline of it was the first blood match, and every week leading up to that, somebody made the other one bust open.
Yep.
Do a blade job on that Raw leading up to it. So, and then earlier on that day before the show, like on the, what do you call it? Was it Heat or the pre-show? Yeah, Heat.
Heat, yeah.
Yeah. Taker jumped Austin on Heat and hit him with a chair, split him wide open. So Austin's going into the match with an open wound on his head, a first blood match.
That's right.
During the pay-per-view itself, Austin then jumped Undertaker, bust him open. So they're going into this first blood match already bleeding, and it just adds to the tension of like something big's going down. And I just thought that was fucking genius of Vince Russo. That's like if you watch Iron Man, where they go, Tony, you can't use that suit. You're poisoned. You're going to die. And then he's like, but if I don't use the suit, the whole everyone else is going to be killed. What can I do? It's like, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
And that's the genius of it all.
I didn't know Vince Russo wrote that spot on Iron Man either. That's pretty impressive.
Bro, what about if he takes off the mask, bro, and it turns out that it's Thor?
There's another stipulation as part of that match that I remember. Like if Taker lost, Vince McMahon couldn't appear on TV anymore, but if Austin had lost, he would never have another shot at the WWF title. So, I mean, like, dude, nobody builds intrigue and drama like that anymore. Like, that's a big... Obviously, we know Vince has come back 15 times, killed himself and came back and whatever. But, that's wrestling. But at the time, dude, you're like, what else can get any bigger than that? I mean, I know WCW was starting to go, like, on the fucking downturn at that point. But WWF was firing on all cylinders, and there's two people responsible for that. Vince Russo and in a smaller part Ed Ferrara. This is after the days of Pritchard booking all these fucking shitty gimmicks and all that, like fucking Duke the Dumpster Drosy and the Goon and fucking Mantar and all that shit. So I mean, when Vince Russo took the reins of the booking, bro. He took it to another level. It's funny how people like to argue that shit. I mean, Vince McMahon has the final say, but Vince McMahon wasn't writing the shit on a daily basis like Russo and Ferrara were. So, I mean, people can say that Vince McMahon's a genius. In some ways that he is, but I mean, you got to think at that point, Hughezy, he was an on-screen character for the better part of a year. And he had to juggle a lot of shit. So, obviously, he didn't have time to fucking deal with the day-to-day booking. Vince Russo did. So, I mean, he is literally responsible for the best time in wrestling.
But there's also two Raws that I think are the two single greatest episodes of pro wrestling TV ever. And they came on, and one was the Raw before Fully Loaded, where I can't remember it offhand, but the main event was Austin and Big Show versus Undertaker and Kane in this Falls Count Anywhere street fight. The Rock teamed up with Rogan X-Pac to take on Triple H, China, and Billy Gunn, and it's like this is all fucking gold, and every segment had a reason. It wasn't like, did you remember during the lockdown that they did a thing on SmackDown where the women wrestlers come out to do a karaoke contest?
Yeah.
Right? How the fuck did that get on TV? Like, it was so fucking bad. And it's like, but there's no reason for this to happen. If the woman wins the karaoke, then what? Does she get a title shot? Like,
right, yeah.
Nothing. But when you watch Russo's Raws, everything happened for a reason. And if this guy lost this match, something's going to happen to the winner, and the loser was going to go on to do this. Like, everything was great. And then, of course, the Raw, the famous legendary episode of Raw when Mankind won the belt for the first time. I fucking dare anyone of our age to watch that episode with the volume up and not be marking the fuck out all day. I mean, Jesus, all that stuff about with DX randomly wrestling the corporation, and then Mankind had to beat Shane McMahon, and all leading up to this great Rock versus Mankind title match, and then Austin comes back, and fuck me, it was that Russo was the right guy with the perfect roster at the right time. It was fucking gold, and to this day, he's the reason why I think most people get fucking Peacock or get the fucking the WWE Network as it is still over here to watch Russo era stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I mean, that was kind of the original thought why I got it. Because I want to go and watch the Monday Night Wars again. I want to actually watch, Raw in its entirety and Nitro in its entirety, for the same week, and stack them up against each other. Because there's a lot of stuff that I forgot about. But you mentioned that Mankind Rock match. I still remember, where I was and what I was doing when I was watching it. I literally was flipping back and forth. And when Tony Schiavone made that line about, oh, that's going to put butts in the seats, I fucking changed the channel, and I started watching that match. It was, and then I watched it in its entirety, and the crowd was so fucking hot, especially when Austin came out and when Foley won, and JR on the call, Mrs. Foley's baby boy, blah blah blah. It was magic. It really was, and it's something you'll never ever see again, in my opinion. I mean, if you want to. Dude, people are literally talking about Omega and fucking Hangman Page coming up here at some point. It's going to be like the greatest fucking wrestling match ever. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? For what? Yeah. 400, 800,000 people? Maybe a million people are going to see it? Who's going to remember that in 30 years? But here we are 20-something years later, and we remember The Rock and Mankind.
Yeah, have they not already had that match, though?
I don't even know. I don't watch the shit. And I just sent you that tweet the other day.
Another thing I've got to say about Russo's genius is what else, because but let's be honest, we know Russo. I'm hoping to record one of my Christmas music specials with him soonish. I'm going to pass him tonight about it. In the summer of 1998, I think was the single greatest era ever to be a fan. WCW was still good, ECW was really good, and WWE was fucking incredible. And the build up to SummerSlam, in fact, the whole of the summer of 1998, there's not one bad thing in WWE. Even fucking Bradshaw, about a JBL, had a storyline with Taka Michinoku, and they were feuding against Kaientai, and they were only given like a couple of minutes per show, but it's like, this is a storyline. Yeah. They're using the roster, and it's more depth, and And it's stuff like that, which I think, like, again, I'm a big Roman Reigns mark. I don't hide it anymore. SmackDown at the minute reminds me of that era of WWE, in that there's so many storylines going on at once, and even if it's not all gold, everybody has something going on, and I don't understand how you could drop that format. It's like Casino Royale, the greatest Bond film of all time, was then followed up with Quantum of Solace, and everything great about Casino Royale they didn't do in follow-up. How and why?
Yeah, I don't know, and I haven't seen the last Bond. Have you?
Oh my God, it's fucking great.
I have to watch it. Yeah, I'm a big Daniel Craig fan as Bond. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. But you're right, Quantum of Solace is like, what? I don't understand what happened.
Terrible.
Yeah, but the one after that was good too, actually.
But I've also got to give Vince Russo credit for this. I think if it wasn't for him, the WWE video games would never have been as good, because he created such depth.
True.
That it wasn't like if you get the game and you think, right, I'm going to pick Brock Lesnar, and then I'm throwing the game away. Back then, there was so many, like Edge and Christian, fucking the Hardy Boys, the
Dudleys.
Yeah, Taka Michinoku, the Nation of Domination. Like, did you ever think you'd be excited about playing as Mark Henry in the game? He made all these new names, like the New Age Outlaws and stuff. You're like, this is fucking gold. I can't wait to get this game. So, plus, a lot of his gimmick ideas, while they may not always work on TV, in the game, that's exactly what you want. Like, that's why I think TNA fucked up when they didn't put a lot of those gimmicks in their game.
True.
Like the Ultimate X and the King of the Mountain and all that stuff. Like, that sort of shit should have gone into the games.
What do you think about his run in WCW?
I didn't get to see all that much of it, but there is this one Nitro, which Night Bro. It's one of my hilarious jokes there. There's this one episode of Nitro that has to be seen to be believed, where like you could tell Vince was doing anything he could to sort of pop a rating, and it ends with a nine-way triple cage war games match.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and at the start of the show, the NWO reforms, instantly breaks up, and then by the end of the show, they've also reformed. And throughout the night, there was a series of like crazy 4-on-1 handicap matches and qualifiers to get into the cell. But it's brilliant. Like, on paper, you're thinking, "What the fuck is this shit?" But and also imagine playing a 9-way triple cage match on the video game.
That's exactly right. I mean,
it'd be fucking amazing.
Amazing, yeah. No, I agree. Was that the? That wasn't the same one that Canyon got thrown off the top, was it?
No, I think that was on a pay-per-view. But this was,
okay, all right.
The great thing was they did this 9-way triple threat cage, 9-way triple cage match,
right, on
WCW to hype up the pay-per-view the next week. But and the thing that was crazy about it was that they gave away the main event of the pay-per-view during the show, so they already told you, well, Booker T or Nash wins.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I remember, it was better than 2000. I mean, once Vince left, the show really, really went down. But remember his stuff with Goldberg? I don't know if you ever saw like the small program that he had with Goldberg. It was captivating stuff. Or, they want to give him shit about the David Arquette stuff, but like, it's anybody in wrestling wants mainstream attention, right? That's kind of your goal, is to kind of get outside of the hardcores and the casuals and try to get people that have never seen it before. That's why WWF would always bring in stars for WrestleMania, just to get a little bit of attention. So bringing in a guy at the time, and you're like, David Arquette, what the fuck? Scream was one of the biggest fucking like highest selling horror franchises in the history, and he was pretty hot at that time. So to bring a guy in like that, Now, would I give him the world title? I don't know. I mean, Vince is either all in or he's all out. So Vince is always going to bring it every single fucking time.
I always thought one giant flaw with that David Arquette stuff was that they didn't bring Courtney Cox with them on TV. And at the time, she's in Friends, which was one of the biggest shows ever. I thought that was a huge mistake.
That's true. But I mean, what did you actually think of the concept of bringing him in and giving him the world title?
Well, if I'm being honest, I only know about it in hindsight because I kind of stopped watching by then. I get it in that it could have popped the rating and brought in some mainstream attention, but wrestling, like, people forget that before this, Vince McMahon made himself WWF champion.
That's right. He won he won the Royal Rumble at one point too. So, I mean, there's that. Yeah,
and it was like, it's not out of the question, but it wasn't a great idea. But I think that the way people talk about it, it's like WCW was already fucked up. It brings me to a point that I've got to mention about Scott Steiner. Now, there's a thing they do here in the UK and Ireland called Inside the Ropes tours, and it's this guy Kenny McIntosh, and they'll bring a wrestler
who you're a big fan of, by the way.
Well, with Kenny, I don't mind. The rest of them can go get fucked, and die. But with so this one they brought Scott Steiner, and I love Scott Steiner, and I met him. Was taller than him and more jacked, but let's not mention that. It gets to the Q&A part, and somebody asked him, they said, what was your opinion on Vince Russo killing WCW? And I witnessed Scott Steiner's temper. And Scott Steiner goes, man, shut the fuck up. and then he goes, Vince Russo, he said Vince Russo wasn't to blame for excuse me, Vince Russo wasn't to. I'm fucking it up like a real Scott Steiner promo. He said Vince Russo wasn't to blame for a single thing that went wrong in WCW, and then he told this story about how Vince Russo had written the plans for the storyline of Scott Steiner versus Hulk Hogan, and it was going to. They were all planned out. It was going to last 4 pay-per-views. That's a big match. Like I would have paid to see Scott Steiner versus Hulk Hogan back then. And he said that less than 15 minutes before they were going live on air, not because of Vince Russo, the whole plan was scrapped.
I didn't know about that,
and Scott Steiner said that Vince Russo tried so much, yet he was writing for a crew where the crew had more say than the writer.
That's pretty sad.
So, and that's another thing I always find amazing about look at the Hulk Hogan thing. Like with the NWO, they literally had to bring him in, put him in hiding, and keep him away from other people in case he dropped out of the NWO angle.
Yeah.
That's how fucking insane those wrestlers were.
No, I agree, and people forget, like, Scott Steiner was huge. Not talking about, like, physically wise, not, as big as you are, but he was over at that point. Like, his gimmick with the big bad booty daddy and all that shit, like, he was just really coming into his own with that character, and that was a big thing back then. I would have loved to see him against Hulk Hogan. That would have been huge.
That would have been. It's the one big match that WCW never did that fucked it all up. But the thing that's even extra crazy is that Vince Russo is responsible for Scott Steiner, because if you go back and look at the Scott Steiner versus Goldberg feud and the matches, they are fucking amazing. And I felt, though, that Steiner versus Goldberg should have been the feud that became like WCW's version of Rock versus Triple H, or Austin versus Undertaker. Just keep booking it and people are going to keep watching. But sadly, Goldberg, as I'm sure everyone knows the story, was reluctant to do so many jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they really completely destroyed the character Goldberg at one point. I remember, oh, God damn it, the spot between Hogan and Russo. I don't know if it was Bash at the Beach, or I forgot what the pay-per-view was, where you didn't know if it was a fucking shoot or a work. You got Russo cutting a promo on Hulk Hogan during a live pay-per-view. and Hogan wasn't there to fucking defend himself. And even all these years later, I've seen all the interviews from Russo and Hogan and all that where they talk about it. I don't know. To me, I still think it was a work. But, Russo swears that was legit.
I think it was probably real because the thing about Hulk Hogan is he's one of those guys that while he was getting older, he was one of it showed you that he still had it in him to be a draw. I mean, if you look at his 2002, 2003 run in WWE, it's fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with Vince Russo in real life, of course, we're just speculating, he was genuinely frustrated with Hogan. And that he's thinking, I've got all these ideas, all these angles, storylines that could sort of bring us back on top. But the guy on top keeps fucking it up.
True. And while Russo wasn't booking during, the Hogan era, he was there for part of it. I mean, Russo was there, I think, from 92-ish, 93, somewhere around there, doing the magazine stuff. So, I mean, he was aware of Hogan and how much clout he had. And maybe he had a preconceived notion or a bad opinion of Hulk when he got to work with him in WCW. I don't know. But I just remember that, that was one of the last real true moments in WCW where I was like, oh, shit, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, but the thing is, from what I've heard, and I keep meaning to ask Russo about this, is that it was supposed to lead to Hulk Hogan versus Booker T, and Hogan putting Booker T over, and then Hogan was apparently reluctant to do that, and then it ended up with the shit that it was. Yeah,
I mean, at least, Russo had a fantastic eye for talent. He was a huge Chris Benoit fan. I mean, before Benoit went crazy and killed his whole family, he was a fantastic wrestler. And
that was Russo's fault.
Yeah.
He didn't book him to be champion on time, so he has blood on his hands there, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if some people thought that. After WCW, he went to TNA, and that's, if you talk to him about it, that's literally one of his favorite times. He really loved his time in TNA. And I thought, a lot of the stuff he did there was great, too. It's you can tell, instantly, wherever he goes, he makes a mark on that territory. When Bischoff and Hogan went to TNA, they didn't do this, as great stuff. Everybody had big plans, Bischoff was going to save Impact. They're going to move into a fucking, they're going to go head to head with Rob. Come on, dude. With Bischoff and Hogan's the same old shit, but Russo knew what to do, and he was still on good terms with Jeff Jarrett at that point. You got to remember all the stuff that he did for Jarrett to elevate him during WCW. So then Jarrett brings him into TNA, and I thought they had really, really good stuff.
I wasn't really watching wrestling around that time as much, apart from the big SummerSlams and stuff. But I do remember a lot of people saying back then that TNA was better than WWE. I remember. Do you remember they did a thing on Raw? They did this stupid, weird storyline of the Undertaker versus Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah,
and the Undertaker kept making Tommy Dreamer eat gross stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, this is absolute shit. This is as bad as it gets, and so I thought, I'm gonna not watch this shite. I'm gonna party on down, catch STDs, take stuff I shouldn't that I'll regret once I'm 36 in 2021.
Vince Russo was the reason TNA kind of got put on the map at that point. And they didn't have the greatest TV contract. I want to say they were on Spike at that point. So, it wasn't as bad as it had gotten. But, he was around when they were doing their first pay-per-views. I think it was I don't know if it was weekly or monthly, but before they had an actual TV deal, they were doing pay-per-views. And from the early inception, he was part of that. And so was Ed Ferrara. So, wherever Vince goes, he leaves his mark. He even got praised by The Rock. Who doesn't have a greater opinion than that? If anybody you want, everybody loves The fucking Rock. So if The Rock puts somebody over, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I can specifically remember that happening live on Twitter, and thank fuck for Twitter at times like that. I can't remember what the episodes were about, but 83 Weeks had done an episode where Bischoff had really, really buried Russo for fucking 3 hours. Pritchard had been burying Russo on something to wrestle with for years, basically, to the point that it was brought up on Twitter, and then The Rock, who was in the middle of, I think, what was it, Fast and the Furious 8 was the last one he was in.
I think so. I can't keep up with him, yeah.
But the $1 billion grossing film, or maybe it was 7, which was, I think, a billion and a 1.5 billion grossing, another one of the biggest films ever. While out promoting that film, The Rock got involved in a Twitter battle defending Vince Russo, because he said, oh no, it was Vince's idea for me to do this. It was Vince Russo's idea. He said, what about this match? What about if The Rock goes out and they do this, this, and this? And ever since then, Pritchard rarely ever mentions Russo's name, because it's like no, you're fucking wrong. Yeah. He got you.
That's really smart. So I mean, like, coming from The Rock, that's a pretty big deal, especially for him to back up Russo. He did not have to do that. But
I think honestly, it's all done for YouTube clickbait.
It might be.
My theory is that people like Cornette, Pritchard, Bischoff, they all know how YouTube works and how to make money. That once they can get past a certain time limit, you can put multiple ads on there. So I think that if they're like, SummerSlam 98 was a really good show, hey, you need to extend it a bit. Fucking Vince Russo, right? What would he know about the booking? And he sucks in New York, and yada, yada, yada. And I think that's what his name has become. And because so many Mark fans only let other people do their thinking for them, I think that Russo has now become the guy who they instantly target all their abuse at. Yet at the same time, if Vince Russo did come back and brought his style of writing to TV, everyone would be like, this is fucking great. This is really good stuff. Like right now, Raw needs needs Vince Russo. AEW needs Vince Russo. When you have a roster of and there's more than a dozen people doing nothing, like how the fuck does Ricochet have no storyline?
Yeah, I know. Well, he can't cut a fucking promo, so I mean, there's that. But can you imagine what he can do in AEW with all of the talent that they have there? And I'm not even talking about the people that have been there originally, like all the newer talent they signed from WWE. You're telling me like fucking Andrade can't have a program? Like, he's a fantastic wrestler. Of course, he's not a great English speaker, but I mean, he's a fucking fantastic wrestler. His stuff with Drew McIntyre in NXT, I still remember, like, it's some of the best stuff they've ever done.
But the thing is the problem with AEW, and I because of Keeping It 100 official, which you find on YouTube, thank you. The biggest complaint that their fans have, or the wrestling fans have with AEW, is that there's no storylines. It's always just
matches.
Rad Rob versus this guy.
Yep.
That's the angle. It's like, but then why would I watch that? Whereas if you look at Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, they've got this whole thing of who's Paul Heyman really with.
That's so good, dude. God damn, it's so good.
It's fucking gold.
Yeah.
Like, Crown Jewel, not that we're reviewing the show, that show was a fucking perfect. Edge versus Rollins.
Great storyline. Yep.
Yeah, the storyline going into that was amazing. I just thought that was a perfectly done show. And that ending with Lesnar and Reigns, and the way the show ended with after this great match, but there's more questions that need to be answered. It's like, that is a flawlessly done angle, and that was exactly the sort of shit that Vince Russo did all the time with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, look at little nuances from Paul Heyman, like when they were walking back up the ramp after that. He's walking back with Roman. He's clutching the belt in his hands, but he still looks back at Brock, like with a little concerned look on his face. Like, was Brock supposed to get that belt that he threw in the ring? Or, you know what I mean? Like, Paul Heyman's a goddamn genius. He's another one that's up there on like intellect, wrestling intellect levels as Vince Russo.
And do you know what I think the finish might be?
What's that?
That the person that Paul Heyman eventually is aligned with is The Rock.
Oh, really? No, that's...
Yeah, I think that's going to be the swerve, bro. That he ends up with neither the Bloodline or Lesnar.
That would be something.
Oh my god,
that would be
fun.
Yeah, I mean, not that The Rock needs to be like that, but still, just the fact of seeing those two guys together, it's another one of those iconic moments that you'll see on highlight reels, like for the rest of fucking eternity. that would be something else. What do you think Vince Russo's legacy is? Should he be in the WWE Hall of Fame?
100%. But if it wasn't for Vince Russo, there wouldn't have been fans like us. We would have tapped out during the 95 New Generation era.
That's true.
Hello, Chad.
Hello, Chad.
Yeah, I remember I stopped watching in later 94, and I didn't come back. And I casually tuned in to see SummerSlam 95, but I didn't really get hooked back in fully until like 97. And there's no logical thinking fan with any type of IQ there, man, who could seriously think that Vince Russo doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And the thing is, there's a shit ton of wrestlers who would endorse him. Austin would, The Rock would, Jericho would. I think anybody with a brain who doesn't currently work for WWE would say absolutely he deserves to be in there.
Jericho, another one. I didn't even think of that. Like the Jericho stuff when he first came back, huge.
But that's the thing, is that I don't think that Jericho and Russo ever actually worked together.
Oh, did they not? I know they were in there at the same year. I didn't know the actual. I don't remember when Vince actually left. So maybe I'll just cut that part out because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah. No, I think Russo had left by SummerSlam.
Okay, gotcha. And then Chris came in around November, I think, before the millennium.
I think so, but I also think that Bret Hart talks a lot of shit about Vince Russo, and I think that's usually the kind of cunt that he is, because wasn't it Vince Russo who finally made Bret world champion in WCW?
That's right. Yes.
And didn't he try to elevate Murderer Benoit? Didn't he give fucking Goldberg that storyline with Sid that was actually pretty good?
Yep.
Like the guy always tries to help, and even when it comes to podcasting, Vince Russo has done at least 3 or 4 episodes of my show for no reason. I don't pay him. I don't fucking elevate his show. He just does it out of the kindness of his heart. He's a nice guy. He does deserve the Hall of Fame. I'd love to see him get like a documentary made about him.
Yes.
I've heard that he's on good terms again with WWE. I think to just fucking give him the respect he's due. And put it like this: here's how you make a Vince Russo documentary. You talk about his era. You show highlights of the Attitude Era. If you can, you get Austin, you get The Rock, you get The Undertaker, Kane, Foley, Triple H to do interviews and go, yeah, the DX versus the Nation, the fucking Undertaker versus Kane, Austin versus The Rock, Austin versus McMahon. Like, and that's just the obvious ones,
right? Yeah. I wouldn't want to see Big E on there and like talking about the whole thing. Like, I want the people that were there. I fucking hate it when they bring in people that weren't even like born yet.
The Brood. What about all that stuff? Was fucking amazing. Oh my god, I love that era.
I do too, and you're right. He should be in the Hall of Fame, and now would be the perfect time to put him in, and would be the perfect time to do a documentary because from what he says, they are on pretty decent terms. He's done a couple network projects for them. He did mention talking to Vince McMahon pretty much for the last time. So at least they're on speaking terms. And Vince was kind of, warm to have Russo back. But I guess, Russo wanted to be a consultant or whatever, but apparently McMahon doesn't want him back as part of any creative. So that door, I think, is finally closed. But at least they had a conversation, which is something that they hadn't had for many, many, many years. So I think maybe at some point he will be in the Hall of Fame, and maybe it's after McMahon's gone. But for all the success that he brought them, I mean, Vince McMahon claims they were almost bankrupt, and had to go that Attitude Era edge to take over WCW because Bischoff wanted to put Vince McMahon out of business, wanted to bankrupt his family. And Vince Russo is solely credited for the reason why we're still watching wrestling today and talking about it 25 years later. That's the lasting legacy of Vince Russo.
Yeah, I never watch pro wrestling, even from the 2000s. I don't watch it. It's all from the 97 to 98 era, and then even some of 99. Like, of course, the build up to WrestleMania 15.
Yeah.
was fucking like,
Yep.
did you ever think you'd be hyped up for fucking Undertaker versus Big Boss Man in 1999?
No. But
Yet at the same time, it was like, I am staying the fuck up. I am canceling plans. I'm watching WrestleMania. This is going to be gold.
yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. So good subject, dude. I appreciate you being here. I know we're a little bit over time. I know you have other commitments today. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media and what you got going on.
Find me at the Hughezy on Twitter, at the Hughezy on Instagram. Preferably follow me on Instagram because the higher the number, the easier it is to get guests for interviews. If you have to be a pro wrestling fan, go check out Keep It 100 Official on YouTube. That's the controversial podcast hosted by Conan and Disco Inferno. And for my glorious podcast, come check out It's Hughezy Hello. And for the video version, search for Hughezy Entertainment on YouTube.
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rad Rob Gaming. Check me out on Twitch every Tuesday and Saturday night, 6 p.m. Central. I'm a Twitch gaming streamer, twitch.tv/Rad Rob Gaming. And check out my YouTube channel, Rad Rob Gaming. I have a plethora of other podcasts. You guys know where to find them. RTW Main Event, RTW Rewind, Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr., Uncanceled with Drake Wirtz. I have a program coming up with Brad Shepard here for Hameen Media Group, launching November 4th, Brad Shepard Unleashed. Brad and I will be doing a podcast together where he's going to live mic, and who knows what he's going to say. As you know, Hughezy, Brad is very, very entertaining and very opinionated. So that is dropping on November 4th, a new program with Brad and I, Brad Shepard Unleashed. What are we going to do next, dude? We got a lot of fucking stupid-ass people out there.
Tony Khan, you're fucked.
There you go. Tony Khan, you're on notice, brother. We'll see you guys next time, right here on the Dork side of the ring.
Fuck these bitch-ass Mars. 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 They ain't got no life. 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 They ain't got no life.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.